Yo, what is up guys, it's Pedro here. In today's video, I'll be going over some free agents on the Washington Commanders that I think are must re-sign for Adam Peters and company. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. We're 200 subscribers away from 15,000. Let's try to get it by, let's say, next Friday. So let's get right into it. So we'll be going over all the free agents and I'll give you guys a brief opinion on all of them, but I'll, focus more on the guys I think the Washington Commanders should re-sign. So you got Bobby Wagner, Mariota, Chin, KJ Osborne. I'll just go down the list. We'll start with some of the guys I don't think they need to bring back. KJ Osborne didn't really do anything here. I don't think he needs to be back. Clelin Ferrell, if they want to bring him back for cheap, like really, really cheap, that's fine. But I don't see the necessity to bring him back. Michael Davis, I don't even need to say anything. Cornelius Lucas, I think if it's a one-year deal, a lot of these guys, it's like, all right, if it's a one-year deal and they can get him for relatively cheap, then okay. So that's one of those guys with Lucas. Wouldn't mind him back. Michael Dieter, he seems like a good culture guy, but unless it's like a vet minimum and he wants to be like, I don't know, even then, like he wasn't great as a backup center. Crowder, I wouldn't mind bringing him back at that minimum one-year deal. St. Juice, no. Zacchaeus, Brown, De'Ami Brown, and Noah Brown. All of those guys, I would say whoever you can get for the cheapest, I would bring back. I think, Zacchaeus is a good guy for the culture. Has been pretty good. He's still young, 27 years old compared to, De'Ami, who's, he's young, but you would think there would be a bigger age gap there. Considering how long Zacchaeus has been in the league. So it's a 2-year age difference. De'Ami did not produce a lot. As much as people want to think he did, he had 300 yards this year, guys. 301 yards this season and 1 touchdown. Obviously, had some playoff production, but I think a team might take a chance on him because he was a 3rd-round pick and he did have some big games in the playoffs and pay him more than I would pay him. And he's had, his career high in a season in 4 years, just 301 yards. So for me, if you can get him back for cheap, go ahead. But if not, it's fine. See you later. Noah Brown, he was pretty good for us this year. I think a lot of people are sleeping on what he was doing. I think it was 450, 500 yards before he got hurt. So he was by far the second leading receiver, out of the receivers. Obviously, Zach Ertz was up there as well. Driscoll, I think Hartman's good for the squad, especially if you bring Mariota back. I don't think Mariota's a must re-sign, but if you can bring him back for cheap, I would definitely do that. McNichols, I like him, but you have, Brian Robinson under contract. You have Austin Eckler under contract. You have Chris Rodriguez. If they want, honestly, bring him in for camp on a very cheap deal, but I think they need to bring in another running back, and I like Chris Rodriguez as well, so bring him back, but I don't know if he's going to make the roster. Michael Walker, whatever. John Bates, whatever. Derek Forrest, whatever. They want to bring those guys back, sure. Like Bates is a good blocker and, has made some catches for the Commanders. Again, if you can get those guys for cheap, go ahead, but I think they're not priority. So the guys I think are must re-signs, and I put this out on Twitter a few days ago, 3 days ago. And you guys can go ahead and check out my Twitter. It's linked in the description. Also, just Pedro Schmidt. So, my must re-signs for the Commanders. And, depending on the price, if it's outrageous, then okay, maybe you don't need to re-sign them. But for the most part, if they're getting what I expect them to get, I think you should re-sign them. Bobby Wagner, I don't think I need to explain that one that much. Second team All-Pro, was pretty good for the Commanders this year. Great tackler, great leader, and knows the system and is just going to lead by example and is just invaluable guy to have in the locker room. You just can't measure what value he brings to this team. So I would bring him back for sure. I think, some people are, wary of him because of his age, think he's not that good anymore. I think he's still good. And, have him, Luvu, and you can sign another linebacker or you can draft a guy if you want to develop him. You got McGee too and Dom Hampton, who are your linebackers you drafted this past year. I think they're playing Dom Hampton, who was a safety in college, more at linebacker. So I would bring him back, 1-year deal. You could probably relatively cheap. He'll be willing to come back. unfinished business. Zach Ertz, very, very similar to what I said about Bobby, just on the offensive side of the ball. Not as good of a player as Bobby is at this point in their careers. Bobby just got second team All-Pro, but Zach Ertz still had an outstanding season, 700 something yards, 7 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, had like a touchdown every game in the postseason pretty much. Like, he was balling out this past year, especially the last like 8 weeks of the season. He was really putting up some good numbers there. So I would say, I guess he didn't have, I'm thinking back to, he didn't have a touchdown in the Eagles game, but still in the last Eagles game in the playoffs. But he put together a really good season. And again, another vet that you can have these young guys learn behind, like Ben Sennett, and then also if you draft a tight end or something, I think it's good to bring Zach Ertz back. He's young, or he's not young, but he's still playing pretty well, and if he can stay healthy, knock on wood, he doesn't get hurt, then he's going to be very productive. And that's how he's been his whole career. With the last couple years, he wasn't productive. He was just not healthy. That's what he was saying a lot. But yeah, bring back Zach Ertz. Him and Jaden have good chemistry. It's just a good guy to have in the locker room as well. A guy that has a lot of playoff experience. And that's something that maybe this team is lacking compared to a team like the Eagles, who we played, and they have a lot of playoff experience. So keeping guys that have that playoff experience is good. Tress Way, this is the one I don't have to talk about at all. He 100% will come back for a reasonable deal. I mean, he's not going to, come back for the vet minimum probably, but he's a good punter and perfect culture guy. Can sling the rock a little bit too. I think Adam Peters, or it might have been Dan Quinn in the, press conference out of the season, was talking about, just guys being bought in, and he mentioned Tress Way. It's so cool to see how bought in Tress Way is, or whatever. He said something like that. And yeah, that basically means it's locked in. He's coming back, I would say. I don't think Tress Way would want to go anywhere else. And yeah, just bring him back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 20-year deal. I don't care. Bring the man back. And then the last one might be a little bit controversial, but Noah Igbenogany. I think he played pretty well for the Commanders. I'm not saying you don't have to pay him a lot or even bring him back as a starter. Bring him back on a 1-year, maybe a 2-year deal as the 3rd/4th corner. So you're gonna have Lattimore, you're gonna have Sainristil. Sainristil's a stud. I think Lattimore, let's give him another. Let's see. Sorry about that. Just 8. We'll see what Lattimore does this year. I think you got to give him a season to really learn the defense and hopefully be healthy going into next regular season. So Lattimore, Sainristil, and Noah Igbenogany, I think that's a solid trio, but bring in another guy. Whether that's a guy in the draft on day 2, or you bring in a veteran, or you bring in a veteran and you draft a guy on day 2 or day 3. Bring all those guys in, but I think Noah Igbenogany is a good slot guy. You look at his metrics, he did really well this year. He really did. The Eagles game wasn't good, but not a lot of defenders had good games. So I would say bring him back for a 1 or 2 year deal, and have him at the very minimum. You have some insurance there as a solid nickel back in Noah Igbenogany, but you can also bring in another guy to compete with him, or compete with some of the other corners, and then draft a guy as well. So I'm not saying that Noah Igbenogany, bringing him back, means that you're locked in with corners. You don't have to bring anyone else in. No, but I think he's a guy that they should bring in. I'm trying to think. There's definitely a couple other guys that Jeremy Chin, not a must bring back, but I think it would be a solid option for them. But I think he'll definitely get some interest elsewhere. Marcus Mariota, like I said, would bring him back on a 1-year cheap deal. Out of all the guys that are free agents, not a lot of guys that I would bring back for 3-4 year deals. Maybe Noah Igbenogany. Honestly, go ahead. He's 25 years old. It's not like I'm in charge, but he's 25 years old and played his best year this past year. If you can get him for cheaper, then if he has another good year, then he's gonna get more interest from other teams and gonna get more money. So I would say Noah Igbenogany, I wouldn't mind a 3-year deal. I don't know what it would look like, but a 3-year deal, bring him back. And then some of the other guys, Tress Way is probably the only other guy that I'm all right, a multi-year deal there. If they want to bring back Bobby Wagner on a 2-year deal, I'm fine. He hasn't had injury issues. Zach Ertz, probably better on a 1-year deal. But Eckler's on the under contract, so he's going to be there. But they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of free agents. They don't have a lot of guys under contract. So They're going to be making a lot of moves this offseason. They're going to be making a lot of moves, but I think the first one should be bring back Bobby, bring back Zach, bring back Trustway, bring back Noah Igbenogany. And there's a couple other guys I think they should as well. I think some of these will be done before before free agency starts. So that is it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and peace.